Well, I'm afraid it didn't come off. I haven't got the part in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but I'm here with Anthony Stuart-Head, and behind me, in fact, is the hill that Giles actually rode down when Buffy and Giles came to England. Isn't that right?
It is, and it was teeming with rain, and I don't think they'll ever come back again. But it was very exciting that Buffy came to England. And yes, this is, it was, I believe, I'm blind as a bat, but I believe that's Otto, the coloured horse that was riding.
That's Otto down there. Well, it's fantastic to be here on your home turf, and it's very obvious from the scene here that you've got a real passion for horses.
I definitely have an affinity. Yeah, it's something that's I always loved horses. I was born in the year of the horse, so I've got ankles like fetlocks. But this is where my partner Sarah Fisher does her work, which is a way of working with animals. And having been with her for about 21 years, my love of horses has increased and grown.
We'll tell him honestly.
I think, there was one moment when I finally really got what it was about, because I always thought, horses was about riding fast and having the wind in your hair. And when we first met, we always used to ride out in Richmond Park, and I'd always look forward to the gallops. And now I understand and appreciate that that's not everything about horses. They are very exciting animals, but they are also incredibly noble and wonderfully spirited animals. And one night when she was away, she was doing a training course, and I was basically mucking out, doing late hay and skipping out. And I was at the stables, and just suddenly I got the piece, and these wonderfully noble animals just doing their thing and munching away, and it was so peaceful, and dare I say it's spiritual, that it was just like I suddenly went, I get it. So anyway, I was on board finally.
Well, how tough is it? Because you've got such a busy schedule. You're one of the few British actors who's really made the break into the States.
Thank you.
To actually fit in horses into that life.
Yes, we both have a very hectic schedule. It makes for a very exciting life. It just means that when I'm around and when she's around, we spend as much time together as we can, and it means that I'm up here as often as I can be.
Have you ever had any aspirations to compete, or is it just being around horses and the access to the countryside around here, which in some sense is so beautiful?
No, I've never had any desire to compete. I'm not a good enough horseman, but I love it. I would love to ride more, because my work, horse riding is considered a dangerous sport, so I wouldn't be insured to. So every time I get a job, it's like, no, you're not going to ride this time. We
saw you riding in Buffy down the hill, in fact behind me. Have you had any other roles that have meant you've got the chance to ride whilst you're working?
Yes, I actually learnt to ride for a programme called Love in a Cold Climate.
It must be very weird when you're riding in a film. I always imagine them to sort of make you gallop down there, gallop back again, and are you there for days and days? Is it what we see on the movies, or is it very different?
No, when you're doing British TV, no, it's very quick. Right, ride from there to there, great, done. No, it took a couple of days to shoot stuff like that.
So what's the future of Anthony Stuart-Head and his horses?
I think we added another one. Sarah just said, "Bought a horse," but actually this one I think is we've bought for some friends. But I'd learn daily from Sarah and from the animals. Animals are ultimately here to teach us, and you just have to have the capacity to want to learn.
Now, I don't know if it's because Buffy and her supernatural friends have been staying in the area, but following her chat with Tony Head, Alice became aware of strange goings-on with magic wands. Thankfully, though, there was no cause for concern. It turned out these were nothing more than long schooling whips for use by Tony's partner, Sarah Fisher, and her pupils when practising the technique known as TEAM, the Tellington Touch Equine Awareness Method.
We're doing a training clinic at the moment, and the idea really is to help to teach the horse to move in balance. And self-carriage, i.e. the horse's ability to walk in its own balance, is also linked to self-confidence and self-control. So horses that have behavioural problems actually have poor balance. So we can use a variety of the ground exercises that you see going over raised poles, into the labyrinth. We support the horse by having it between two handlers, so the horse can actually start balancing and not barge into the person that's maybe handling them from the left. And we also use like the white wands that you'll see, which is totally untraditional in terms of leading horses, as an extension of the arm to really show the horse where we want it to be.
So you use also the sort of language, you know, if we would look at these, you'd think, oh, big sticks, and it looks quite dramatic. But even the language, use them wands.
Because they work like magic, and we stroke the horses with them, and we never hit them.
Perfect.
It's about changing posture, and you can change an animal's behaviour by changing its posture and finding the tension patterns in its body. It originates from something called Feldenkrais, which was actually it's a way of showing the body what it can do rather than putting it in a position where it finds out what it can't do. And Linda Tellington Jones, the originator, basically was doing Feldenkrais, and she suddenly thought this would be incredible if you could find a way of doing this with animals. You could achieve enormous results.
Horses learn through their feet, like people do too.
Okay.
So to put them over different textures on the ground helps to improve the way that their mind works. So they get more concentrated. It also helps them overcome a fear of things on the ground, like drains when you're out hacking, have a drain cover or something surprising on the track if you're hacking through the woods. So that in everyday situation it is safe, easy to handle, and can actually think for itself.
Right, so watching what's going on, are you waiting for the horse to move on his own accord, or is he always directly influenced by the handlers?
We always ask for the signal, because we don't want the horses going off if the rider's in the middle of mounting, or if we're in the middle of doing something, they suddenly start walking. So we are training the horse, but we are showing it how to learn for itself rather than make it do something on a cue. So we will give a very light, subtle signal forward. At the beginning, you may need to really use the wand, say, stop through your body, instead of always being pulled off your head. We want to teach the horse to come over its hindquarters. Most horses end up pulling themselves along on their front leg. And they don't engage behind properly, so you get all sorts of problems and physical problems and performance problems. So if we're actually teaching the horse to shift its weight forward and back through the body, through the way that we lead the horses, we've got much more control over them.
And this is something that you've also crossed over into riding for the disabled.
Yes, because if you think about riding for the disabled, a lot of the horses are carrying riders that aren't as balanced as they could be. So it's really important that the handler's balanced. Again, it goes back to if I'm out of balance, I've just pulled my horse out of balance. But if I stay in balance, I can now place your weight over your right foot.
Right, over the centre of my body.
So if we can teach this to the RDA handlers, it's better for the unbalanced rider, it's better for the horse, and it's easier for the handler, because if you've got an unbalanced horse, they may not want to come forward easily, so you end up having a battle, come.
So team as a system, is it something that's purely for recreational riders, or is it for the top competition horses as well?
It works for everything. The Happy Hacker, RDA therapeutic riding programs, and also top level dressage horses have a huge success rate with improving performance at a very, very high level in all disciplines, show jumpers, everything.
It's about educating people as well as helping to educate the animal. Showing someone that their animal is trying to tell them something. It's not that they're just bad-tempered or bolshy. I mean, there are some inherited traits that you can't do anything about, but more often than not, an animal is actually in some pain or some discomfort, and they have, even if they're not specifically in discomfort or in pain at that moment, they have a cell memory of that. And it's if you can help people understand, that if you listen to an animal, the animals have an enormous vocabulary that we really
aren't in touch with
hear.
So you failed your audition for Buffy, but I'm not going to say too much because I've seen you in action and I don't want to kick.
And as for you, how are the thighs after the sitting trot?
Sore, very sore, yes.
Well, I'm still challenging you to that competition. Now, you've got time, but don't forget, take some tips here.
Bring it on, bring it on.
That's it for this edition of Horse Tales. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.